Good. Emily Chiswell here until 6 o'clock. That was the Beach Boys. Wouldn't it be nice? Yes, it very much would. Saturday the 16th of July. I hope you're really, really well. So each week we chat to someone whose working life just definitely ain't your run-of-the-mill. This week, the lovely Luke. He's a comedian turned gardener who I actually came across when I was wandering around in Victoria Park in Bristol and spotted this amazing flower bed. It's like strikingly lovely, and just went over to have a little look, and lo and behold, there's an amazing story behind it. So I met up with him earlier in the week and asked if I hadn't sort of stalked and hunted him down on Twitter after seeing his beautiful flower bed in Victoria Park in Bristol, how he would describe exactly what it is that he does.
In terms of why you've got me here, I'm volunteering in Victoria Park in Bedminster and turning an old flower bed that's gone a bit feral into a place of beauty again.
Yeah, because definitely, from being an eyewitness account, it was noticeably something that caught my eye. I mean, Victoria Park in Bristol is beautiful. Yeah. I love it and literally want to hug it on a daily basis. But that flower bed is just amazing and caught my eye with its life and just colour and sort of fullness. Yeah. So it's a great way to kind of, catch people's attention, isn't it, as well, about what you're up to?
Absolutely. Well, it was, it's mainly done altruistically, as a good thing for the community and stuff like that, but I am retraining to be a gardener. So it's a very public CV in a way, and way to learn.
Yeah, so that leads us on to, you were saying it's what we're talking about today, but give us a picture of you. I'm interested in you as a whole. How do you end up thinking, I want to just, do a flower bed? Talk us through the process of how you enter that space. Because I'm guessing you've never done gardening before this.
Not really, no. I grew up in a gardening family. Helped out with a bit of weeding when I was a kid and stuff, and then...
Forced to, let's be honest. Everyone was.
Yeah. Yeah. So green fingers in the roots kind of thing. And to be honest, I'm a Jill of all trades, really. I've done all sorts. I've been a website manager, a DJ. I've done music for computer games. I've worked at the BBC for 6 years.
Wow.
Music copyright and stuff like that. And... I don't know how far back to go, really. I was living in Clapham in London and just had a big garden. A few little poppies were coming up and I thought, that's quite nice. I could probably do something there. And so I just got some packets of seeds, buzzed them out, and I thought, this is really cool. Fantastic. There's £1 worth of seeds and look at all this colour, basically.
Amazing.
So moved up to Bristol and was living in Southfield, had a house with a garden that was just concrete. Nothing in there at all.
So quite a change.
Yeah, so I just got a few pots from Free Cycle, bag of compost from Riverside up the road, and same thing, just got some packets of wildflower seeds and started off with about 3 pots, and then the next year, because it had gone quite well and I could collect the seeds off the flowers as well, and then I got about 50 pots off some local person that was really generous, more compost, and then just went crazy with it basically and sort of fell in love.
It's amazing. Yeah, I'm interested what it is. Is it, you mentioned then the colour, and what is it that draws you to all of this kind of stuff?
I think colour's the first thing. There's something about sort of the gradation of colour. Certain like my favourite flowers are always more than one colour. So at the moment it's a rose in the garden that's yellow, but then the outer edges just seep into pink.
Yeah, I know that. I can imagine in my head the ones you mean. They sort of blend in, don't they?
Yeah, and there's something about that changing colour that just love. Like a sunset. Like something about the way it's blue up the top and then slowly fades down into orange and pink and stuff. Just makes me feel very happy.
Amazing. Even just you talking about it makes me feel really happy. It's contagious. Yeah. So you're talking then as well about the generosity of people giving pots and stuff. I'd love to hear a bit more about that side of stuff, because obviously what you're doing with the flower bed in Victoria Park is all voluntary, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you're relying a lot on the generosity and goodwill of yourself, but also other people helping out. Tell us a bit about that side of the project.
Well, Victoria Park have got their voluntary group, the Victoria Park Action Group. I was part of them, just helping out weeding and coppicing and stuff like that. And so to sell the idea to them, I thought, well, let's make it more of a community thing rather than me just expanding outside of my garden kind of thing. So then I thought, well, let's just put it out there, little stories like this, get people interested. Facebook has got a really good Windmill Hill group that's very active. So I needed stuff, and I had no cash. Because whilst the council sort of owns the land and allowed me to do it, very generously, thanks council.
Credit where credit's due.
That's it. They said, we're not going to give you any money or tools or compost or anything like that. So I had to work getting that out myself. And as I'm currently a jobbing comedian, I'm skint.
And so relying on the goodwill of people helping out. Have you got any stories of that? Of like little, I don't know, a couple of examples of where that's been a real handy, apart from the pot?
So I put a little thing out on Facebook and Twitter, and just loads of people gave me old packets that they had, or seeds that they'd collected from their gardens. Sarah Venn from Incredible Edible got in touch and said, yeah, I've got loads of stuff. So I had loads of bags of seeds and bulbs and all that sort of stuff. So then I took all the seeds and grew them mainly in my back garden. Other places said I could, those little greenhouses that you get, the little plastic ones. So I filled those up. I got some pot and compost from Riverside Garden Centre. They were very generous. I got a load of compost from a company called Reorganics that do green waste out in Keynsham. They gave me like a van load of this stuff, basically.
How are you finding all these people? Is it through social media? How are you getting hold of it? It is mainly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Riverside because I just discovered it one day and just love going around garden centres, But then, looking for organic composters in the area, just Google it, didn't you? And they come up, and then you go, hey, I'm doing this. I'm putting up a notice board in the park if you want your name put on there and just help out. And they're like, yeah, grand, we're up for that. There's a cubic metre of compost or something like that. So then took all that and just germinated all the seeds, because I've just finished my RHS horticulture course over in Bristol Botanical Gardens, and that's a purely theoretical course. And so then I thought, well, let's put it into more practice on a larger scale. I've always grown seeds because it's really cheap and really exciting seeing them emerge and stuff. But then this was like, there's 20 seed trays. Let's get them all going. Let's pinch them all out and see, test my limits in a way. See what I can do in the time frame and stuff like that.
And scale-wise, it's a very different...
Yeah, that's it. And I know I want to do something with plants and flowers, but I don't know exactly what. So... let's try it all, from nursery work to propagation to design to working in people's gardens and stuff. So see what fits, really.
Yeah, try and see how it works by trial and error sort of thing. Yeah. You talked about the other bits and pieces that you do. You just flung in there that you're a comedian as well. Yeah. How do you make this work? Because people often say with voluntary stuff or projects, that are more heart-led, I haven't got the time, or I can't justify it. Yeah. What's your personal approach on that in terms of balancing your various fingers and plenty of pie by the sound of it? Yeah,
well, I'm gifted in that my paying work is evening work, so I've got daytimes free, and also I don't have much work. So I've got loads of time. I'm time rich and cash poor, but there's ways to get through being poor.
Yeah, and also I guess it's that thing of having time is the thing that when you're volunteering or doing a project like that, this is what you have bucket loads of, so it ties in, I guess. And
transferring careers, no one knows me from Adam, so why would they hire me as a gardener kind of thing? So I have to then put in the effort to do voluntary work, like virtually every job it seems these days. You've got to do intern work to get the experience and to get a bit of a show reel. So the VPAG said, yeah, you can do the butterfly bed. I envisaged that there was a lot of smaller beds in there, or small areas that have just been left to go wild. And I thought, you could do it there. And they said, you could do the butterfly bed, which is, I've sort of measured it out, it's about 150 metres squared.
Yeah, it's not small.
No, it's huge. Just like 5 of these studios. It's ridiculous.
You're like, now I'm really realising that as I'm toiling there on my own all the time. Yeah. But it does mean that it does have such a great impact, because it is that size, I guess. It is eye-catching. It means you've got the space to kind of shove it full of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, I started at one end, worked my way through, and most of the time it's weeding. Pulling stuff out. The soil's really poor, it's really clay in some areas and really sandy in others. So it's an odd combination. There's not much nutrients in it. It's been compacted by kids, weather and dogs.
Sounds like the perfect place to start doing your gardening.
That's right, yeah. Well, it's a very good way to, turn this into the Adonis-like body that...
Obviously, that I see in front of me.
Along. Yeah,
Well, you know what they say. Gardening keeps you fit, doesn't it? Bless him. What a hero. Luke, this week's day jobber, will be chatting more to him the other side of the latest traffic and travel, which is on the way.
Emily Chiswell on BBC Radio Bristol.
Emily Chiswell here until 6 o'clock. Right, so we've been talking day job. We chat to someone every week that does a job that's just a little bit different, because that's just kind of interesting. And Luke is chatting to us this week, and he's been getting green-fingered by volunteering his time to create an absolute beauty of a flower bed up in Victoria Park in Bristol. But Luke's not been gardening forever, as we heard just before the traffic. No. He's been up to all sorts of things along the way. And up until more recently, when the gardening has really taken its hold, it was actually comedy that was floating his boat.
It's an odd one, because the comedy... I've done it for the last 6 years. Basically, I do a show called Blankety Quiz. So Blankety Quiz is a pub quiz. Me and my mate thought about a way to put a comedy out there, and a pub quiz seemed like a good vehicle to get people in, fills in all the gaps. People will be interested over that hour, 2 hours kind of thing. And then within that, we put all our comedy. So I've been doing it for 6 years.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea. It makes complete sense.
Yeah. It's a great show, and with all creative jobs, it seems like, when I was DJing as well, unless you're supremely talented and people come to find you, or you're lucky, you've got to do the groundwork, the promoting and the calling people up.
The admin.
The admin and the knocking on the doors and stuff like that. And for some reason, that just... I can't do it. And so, with the comedy, I think I've reached the point where I'm like, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Much as I'd love to do it, and I know I've put on some wicked shows and made people laugh their asses off, everything else, I just can't do it. So unless I've got a manager, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, I'm going to move into gardening, I think.
Yeah, it's so interesting hearing you speak, because I do a lot of chats with lots of people who do different stuff, and it is that thing, I think, that the subject matter itself isn't just the job. It is basically running your own small business.
Yeah.
You know, you are the marketing person, you are the accountant. I think it's a very real issue for wanting to make a creative thing work. It is, those are business skills, really.
I mean, you could be the funniest person in the world, but you've still got to knock on all the doors to get all the people to see you, and I can't do that. It's like you say, the accountancy. Every time the accounts come round, I go mad, literally go mental, and I need help to do it. So
bring on the flower beds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the funny thing was, I do the gardening just as a way to calm my head down and get rid of the noise, the white noise in my head of constantly thinking about stuff, trying to be funny, constantly being on social media as well, which obviously drives you mental. So I'd garden to try and calm my soul down, and then I thought, well, let's do more of this and less of the driving myself mad trying to be funny.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Hard decision, though, I imagine. Was it kind of like, I guess if you've been doing it for that length of time, was it a kind of difficult thing, or did it feel something that was...
Yeah. I mean, it's not over. I'm still doing the shows, but I'm not looking for new shows. I'm happy to just do 1 or 2 a month.
And look at it slightly differently, I guess. It's that kind of thing. I don't know, make peace sounds a bit sort of probably full on, but make peace in your head that's how it works for you best. I think often that can be something that definitely for me, once I've made a thing of like, okay, this is how it works best for me. You feel like that sort of relief almost in a way. 'Cause you're taking control back of it rather than letting it, especially with creative stuff, I think it can run away with you a bit.
Totally. Well, 2015, I had 3 separate gigs. And it just sort of reached a crux. It sort of imploded. And I thought, right, that's a big chunk of my life wasted. I'd moved to Bristol specifically to do comedy with my best mate who had to drop out. He had a family, full-time job, whatever. So last year was just like, oh, God, I'm in my 40s. And I'm just fooling around. I've got no sort of a career. I've spent loads of time either trying to write music or work in computer games or whatever, and they've all sort of fallen off. They've all failed for one reason or the other kind of thing. And so last year was like, right, now what? Am I ever going to be in a position where I might be able to sort of a bit stable and have a family or something? I don't know. So then, you know, like all crises, you get your head down and you kind of get through it, don't you, really? So having the project, because it was given to me in December, or it was agreed in December that I could do this thing. And part of it was I'd got a sunflower. I had 600 seeds, and I thought, well, what can I do with these? And normally stuff like that I just guerrilla put them around town kind of thing.
Amazing.
I thought it's always a shame because you do it and then council comes and chops that area down or whatever, you know, like they do. And this was a bit more of a, okay, now this is massive, but if it works really well, what a great start to being a gardener kind of thing. So then it was just like, right, there we go, 24/7. I've got these comedy obligations, and I'm happy to do that, and they're brilliant when I do them, but all my other time is just like planting, germination, soil, which kind of went with my studies as well, so it all kind of tied in really well.
What an amazing story, really. It is an amazing story. Darling, tell me, what have you found the most challenging thing with any of your endeavours, really? Not necessarily just the work in Victoria Park. What's the most challenging thing doing these various creative bits and pieces, do you reckon?
Fighting my demons, fighting my kind of self-doubt. Some days you don't believe you can do it, or you think you're going to do a bad job, or you just, for some reason, me personally, I hate it. Some days I don't give a monkey's about flowers and nice, beautiful things, you know, and you kind of, it's not self-harming, but, you know, you're not doing yourself any favours kind of thing. So it's that sort of waking up with a black cloud over you and just going, but just do that. You know, start something simple. Partly it's through ambition. I've just got a crazy imagination that's really ambitious, and I think, oh yeah, it'd just be amazing to do that. And then you get a realistic part of your brain that goes, can't do that. What are you talking about, you idiot? Never going to do that.
Tap on the shoulder, yeah.
That sort of thing, yeah. So, and then it's sort of a battle between those, and just, if you're not up for anything super creative, like planning things out, just go and do a bit of weeding. You can do that, and then you do a bit of weeding, you calm down, and then you do other things from there, basically.
Sort of action, I guess, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
action rather than sort of staying too much in your head, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. It's great advice, and definitely a lot of empathy with that. I think
Yeah.
I'll not be the only one to say that.
No.
What advice do you wish you'd been given before you started off on this? Again, I guess, with like any of your little bits and pieces, what
Yeah.
advice would have been handy, do you reckon?
For this project specifically, don't bother planting any seeds in the flower bed. Basically, I created some big nursery beds that, through either slug action or not being able to water it enough, just hundreds and hundreds of flowers died and were
Oh,
eaten,
that must be
basically.
really frustrating, really actually quite heart-crushing.
It's a bummer. It is a bummer, I can't deny it. But, you know, the whole thing was a learning experience anyway, so a little plant here and there, there's always more seeds, and there's always next year. And next year, if I'm given the opportunity and I have the time to do it next year as well, then maybe it will be like I envisaged. So there's still plenty of time yet and loads of things to go in, but in my mind's eye it was like a whole wedge of paisley, you know, neon paisley in front of you with all these flowers all going at once.
I guess that's a reality check, though, on what this art form that you're now doing so much around is like.
Yeah.
It is that thing of, I mean, I am absolutely not a gardener at all, so I am not professing this with any knowledge. I'm just watching my mum. It's like it is a labour of love and time. It's just, it's a time, like we've talked about, but to see the fruits of what you're making and to, you know, it makes you realise that, like, what you see on like Chelsea Flower Show, like, that must have taken you a whole lifetime to perfect that part of that garden.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Well, Chelsea's great, but obviously it's a massive team doing that. And my project should have been more of a team thing, basically. Loads of people have offered to come and help, and that's fantastic, but there's part of me that It's a combination of wanting to just test myself, see what I'm capable of, wanting to keep all the glory for myself, can't deny that.
Yeah.
And also, it's easier to make your own mistakes. If you get a team of people around you, then I feel an anxiety of not knowing what to tell people to do. And
responsibility
stuff like that.
as well, isn't it? Delegation and all that stuff.
Yeah. So it would have been more successful with more people, but, you know, sometimes you just want to do stuff on your own, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to, it's like setting up, knowing there's different ways that you can approach stuff, isn't it? It's reminding yourself there's options, but what you're doing it for, sticking to that. I think that can tend to be quite a difficult thing as well with all these creative things, is actually, you know, like you say, you have these ideas, but then you're sort of 10 ideas off to the left. It's like, okay, hang on, what was I actually doing when I sat down this morning?
Yeah.
You have to focus yourself, as with everything.
Yeah. The design side of things, I planned it out, drew it, made a note of all the plants that were already in there, because it wasn't a bare bed. There was a lot of shrubs, perennials in there. A lot of things came up that had been planted by the original volunteers, because it was originally made by volunteers back in the day. So I sort of took those all into account, got all the seeds, started germinating the seeds, and thought, right, well, these are my paints, these are my colours, kind of thing. So the idea was then I could paint a scene with the bed, kind of thing, with the different plants at different heights, different colours, all that sort of stuff. And what it's come down to is, I'll buzz it in there. There's a hole.
Quick, fill it.
That's it, yeah.
I think that's the story of life. It's all the best laid plans, my love, never quite as they seem.
Yeah.
What sort of things do you, now you're at the stage you are with it now, what have you seen come from this? Obviously, you've talked about it a bit on a personal level, but what other bits and pieces have come from it?
The good thing that's come out of it, well, obviously there's the learning side of things, which is invaluable. And I've had some work off the back of it, which is fantastic, because, you know, money's too tight to mention.
If only you brought your music with you, doll.
I know, yeah, that's it, you've got to pay the rent. But day to day, when I'm working in there, people walk past and they go, that's really nice, thank you very much. And that's properly heartwarming, you know, that's lovely. People just sort of appreciate the effort I've put in, and even though I think it still looks a bit rough and ready, they're grateful for me having a go.
Oh, they are indeed. I'm absolutely one of those grateful people. Honestly, it is just one of the loveliest things. I think even if it was full of weeds, just the fact that he's like pouring all this time and energy into creating something like that we can all share, it's just a lovely thing. Luke from Keno Grows chatting to us about our day job. It's brilliant. How are you at gardening, Mr. Sport?
Well, it should be pretty good. My brother and my dad are landscape gardeners.
Oh, for goodness.
Are landscape gardeners.
Oh, for goodness.
Are